If I could sit down with every single person over 60 who has ever felt like their brain is not what it used to be, there is one thing I would want them to hear before anything else. Your brain is not slowing down. I know that sounds hard to believe. I know it contradicts everything you have been told, everything you have assumed, and maybe even everything you have felt in those quiet, frustrating moments when a word disappears from your mind or a name you have known for decades suddenly feels unreachable. People over 60 tell me about these moments constantly. They describe sitting in a conversation and suddenly feeling like their thoughts hit a wall. They tell me about reading a paragraph 3 times and still not being able to hold on to what it said. They talk about walking into rooms and standing there, blank, embarrassed, wondering what on earth they came in for. Then they look at me and say the thing that almost all of them say eventually. I think my brain is giving up on me. Every time I hear those words, something inside me aches because I know the truth, and the truth is so different from what they believe. Their brain is not giving up. Their brain is not failing. Their brain is not slowing down the way they think it is. Something else is slowing down, something they have probably never considered. And it is affecting their brain in ways that feel exactly like mental decline, even though the brain itself is still perfectly capable. That something is their gut. I know how that sounds. Believe me, I have watched the surprise spread across enough faces to know that this is not what anyone expects to hear. When your memory stumbles, when your thinking feels sluggish, when you cannot concentrate the way you used to, the gut is the absolute last place most people would think to look. Every instinct points to the brain. That is where thinking happens. So that must be where the problem lives. It makes perfect logical sense, and yet in so many cases, it is simply not the full picture. I hear this every week from people who spent months, sometimes years, worrying about their brain, getting scans, taking tests, trying supplements that promise to boost cognitive function, and nothing changed. Nothing improved. The fog stayed. The memory slips continued. The frustration grew deeper and deeper. Then they learned about the connection between the gut and the brain, made one simple change, and slowly, gradually, something started to shift. That is the story I want to explore with you today, because if you have been blaming your brain for something that is not its fault, you deserve to know the real source of what you are experiencing. Let me take a moment to lift some weight off your shoulders, because I can feel it even through the screen. If you have been walking around with this quiet terror that your mind is deteriorating, that every forgotten word is another step toward losing yourself, I want you to take a breath. What you are experiencing does not mean your brain is broken. It does not mean you are on an inevitable path towards something terrible. In the vast majority of cases, the brain of a person over 60 is far more capable, far more resilient, and far more intact than they give it credit for. The brain is not the one struggling. The brain is the one being starved. It is being starved of the clean signals, the essential chemical messengers, and the steady support it needs to operate at its full potential. The source of that support, the place where those signals originate, the factory that produces those messengers, is your gut. When the gut is healthy and balanced, it sends a constant stream of nourishment and information to the brain, and the brain thrives. When the gut falls out of balance, that stream weakens, becomes unreliable, becomes polluted with noise, and the brain does the best it can with what little it receives. The result feels like cognitive decline, but it is not. It is cognitive deprivation. Your brain is not slowing down. Your gut is failing to keep up. I want to pause here because I think this moment matters. Right now, some of you are hearing something you have never heard before, and it is landing somewhere deep. Maybe you feel a flicker of hope for the first time in a long while. Maybe you feel a wave of frustration that nobody told you this sooner. Maybe you are thinking about all the nights you spent lying awake, scared, imagining the worst, when the answer might have been in a completely different part of your body. Whatever you are feeling right now, it is valid, and I want to honor it. So let me ask you something that I hope you will take seriously. Have you been blaming your brain for something you could not explain? Have you spent time convinced that your mind was failing when deep down a part of you sensed that something else was going on? If that resonates with you, I would love for you to leave a comment below this video. You do not need to tell your whole story. You can simply write, "I blame my brain, but maybe it was something else." Those few words could change someone else's entire perspective today. There are people watching this right now who are terrified and alone in their experience, and your comment could be the first moment they realize they are not the only one. When you share, you create a bridge for someone else to walk across. Please consider doing that. It costs nothing, and it can mean everything. Now let me explain what is actually happening inside your gut that has such a profound impact on how your brain performs. Imagine your gut as a massive communication center, the kind you might see in a movie about a space mission. There are screens everywhere, operators at every station, signals coming in and going out constantly. This communication center is responsible for sending critical information to your brain, information that affects how well you remember things, how clearly you think, how quickly you can process what is happening around you, and even how you feel emotionally from 1 hour to the next. The operators in this center are trillions of tiny living organisms that reside inside your digestive system. Each one has a specific role, a specific job, and when they are all present and working in harmony, the communication center runs beautifully. Messages reach the brain on time, in the right order, with perfect clarity. You feel sharp. You feel present. You feel like yourself. Here is what changes after 60. Over the decades, the workforce in that communication center begins to shrink. Some of the most skilled, most essential operators retire and are never replaced. The ones who remain do their best, but they are overworked and understaffed. Messages start going out late. Some messages get scrambled. Some never get sent at all. The brain is still sitting there, ready and waiting, fully capable of doing its job, but the information it needs is not arriving the way it used to. So the brain improvises. It fills in gaps. It guesses. It slows down, not because it is broken, but because it is working with incomplete data. From the outside, this looks and feels exactly like mental decline. From the inside, it is a supply problem, not a brain problem. This is something I see all the time, and it is one of the most important distinctions I can help someone understand, because it changes everything about how you approach your own health going forward. There is another piece of this that makes the situation even more significant after 60. Inside your gut, there is a barrier, a thin protective layer that acts as a gatekeeper between your digestive system and your bloodstream. When this barrier is strong, it allows nutrients and helpful signals to pass through, while blocking harmful substances from entering your body. Think of it like the front door of your home. When the door is solid and the lock works well, you control what comes in and what stays out. Over time, this barrier can weaken. The door develops gaps around the edges. The lock does not hold quite as tightly. Harmful particles that were never supposed to get through start slipping into your bloodstream, and your body responds the only way it knows how, with inflammation. This is not the kind of inflammation you can point to on your body. There is no redness, no swelling, no obvious sign. It is a silent internal process that moves through your system quietly, and when it reaches the brain, it creates a kind of static. Imagine trying to have a phone conversation while someone is crumpling paper next to your ear. You can still hear the other person, but everything requires more effort. You miss words. You ask them to repeat themselves. You lose the thread of what was being said. That is what inflammation does to your brain. It does not destroy your ability to think. It interferes with it. It makes everything harder, slower, less precise. Many of my patients describe this feeling perfectly when they say it is like thinking through mud, or like their brain is running on low battery all the time. Now here is the part that I wish everyone over 60 could hear. because it carries so much hope. Your gut is not a fixed system. It is a living, dynamic ecosystem that is constantly trying to repair itself and find balance again. When you give it the right support, even in a very small way, it responds. The single habit that people over 60 share with me most often as the one that made a noticeable difference in their thinking and their memory is beautifully simple. It is adding one small serving of naturally fermented food to one meal each day. Not a supplement in a bottle, not an expensive program, just real whole food that carries living beneficial organisms directly into your gut. I am talking about sauerkraut, the real kind, the kind you find cold in the refrigerated section, not sitting on a warm shelf. I am talking about plain yogurt that contains live active cultures, the kind that actually lists those cultures on the label. I am talking about kimchi, a fermented vegetable dish rich with diverse organisms that have been nourishing human guts for centuries. I am talking about kefir, a tangy, smooth, fermented drink that you can enjoy on its own or mix into whatever you like. What these foods do is remarkable in its simplicity. They send fresh, living reinforcements into that understaffed communications center we talked about. New operators show up, trained and ready to work. They fill vacant positions. They start producing those chemical messengers that your brain has been waiting for. They help repair the weakened barrier, closing the gaps that were letting harmful particles leak through. Over time, and I want to emphasize that word because this is a gradual process, the communications center starts running more efficiently again. Messages reach the brain more clearly, more consistently, more completely. Many of my patients tell me that after 3 to 4 weeks of this one daily habit, they began to notice subtle but meaningful changes. The fog did not vanish overnight, but it started to thin. They could find words more easily. They could follow conversations without drifting away. They could read a page and actually retain what they read. One person described it to me as feeling like someone had cleaned a window they did not even know was dirty. The view was the same, but suddenly everything looked sharper and brighter. I want to be completely transparent with you because I value your trust above everything else. This is not a miracle solution. There is no single food that can undo years of change in a matter of days, and anyone who tells you otherwise is not being honest. What I am sharing with you is a starting point, one gentle, accessible, affordable step that gives your gut the support it needs to begin its own healing process. Your body already knows how to restore balance. It just needs a little help. Start with whichever fermented food appeals to you most, or at least whichever one you find least objectionable. A spoonful with lunch, a small cup with breakfast. Keep it simple. Keep it consistent. Give your body the time it needs to respond, and pay attention to the small shifts that begin to appear in your daily life. If this is landing with you, if something in this video has sparked a sense of possibility that maybe you had lost, I want to warmly invite you to subscribe to this channel. Every week, we explore a new aspect of this incredible connection between your gut and your brain. We talk about memory, mental clarity, mood, sleep, and the many quiet ways your digestive health shapes your daily experience after 60. Everything is presented in plain, honest language because I believe you deserve to understand your own body without needing anyone to translate for you. There is a growing community here of people who share your experiences and your determination to feel better, and every single one of them is welcome. When you subscribe, you are not just following a channel. You are choosing to invest in your own well-being, and that is one of the most meaningful decisions you can make. I want to close by saying something I hope stays with you long after this video ends. Your brain has not betrayed you. Your brain has been doing its best with what it has been given, and that is actually a testament to how strong and resilient it truly is. The fact that you are here, that you are still searching for answers, that you refuse to simply accept the fog as your new normal, tells me everything I need to know about the kind of person you are. You are someone who does not quit. You are someone who still believes that better days are ahead. You are right to believe that. The path forward does not require a complete overhaul of your life. It does not demand perfection or discipline or willpower you do not have. It asks for one small, daily choice. One act of care for your gut that quietly becomes an act of care for your brain. Start there. Start today. Trust the process, trust your body, and most of all, trust yourself. You are not too late for this. You are arriving at exactly the right time, and the next chapter of your story can be clearer, brighter, and more hopeful than you have allowed yourself to imagine. Take that first step. Your brain is ready. It has been ready all along. It is just waiting for the right support to arrive.